All right. Hello, Mario. Could you please introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. My name is Mario. I hail from Austria, somewhere deep inside of Europe. I used to do a lot of stuff and I still do a lot of stuff. Started my career in applied science, mostly machine learning stuff and visualization and information retrieval stuff. Did a short stint in San Francisco to work on mobile games, came back, became a manager, got bored, did a startup with two friends, sold that to Xamarin slash Microsoft, and then joined my best friend with some game development shovels that we sell to game development companies, and am a free spirit who can do pretty much whatever he wants to do with his time.
That's a very good intro. I know you from the internet mainly. I know you through Pi, which is the CLI agent that you have been building. I found it to be like super unique. Like from my personal usage, I use a lot of them. What are you doing like these days? What's got your attention?
Well, now that there's the holidays, my attention is mostly focused on pie and family. So I'm trying to use those 2 weeks to just make pie stable enough so people can enjoy it. Although that's not the main cause why I built pie. Pie is mostly for me because I got a little bit, let's say, disappointed with the tools of the trade, like Cloud Code and Codex and Gemini CLI and all that stuff. And I'm a simple boy, so I need simple tools. So I built a simple tool for myself. Yeah, and before that, I spent most of the year getting agents, coding agents to work on brownfield projects. That is big old legacy code bases. Well, maybe not legacy, but big old code bases that weren't created during the era of agents, so to speak. So I spent a lot of the earlier 2025 figuring out how to make agents work in brownfield projects. And that basically resulted in in all the learnings that I applied to Pi. Keep things simple. That's the thing that works the best for me, at least.
I have just a whole bunch of questions around that. Like, I started coding before all this happened, about like 3 or 4 years before at least it got into the public, and I even started earlier than that, but I was like amateur or teenager. Things have changed a lot, I feel, and also like very little. I see some people, there's like different classes, I guess, of developers. The people that are like really, it's hard to say, but those people that are like traditionally seen as very intelligent, smart, dedicated engineers tend to like not like AI or feel like it's not good at a lot of things. And I'm just very curious about like what you think of it, because I get so many contradicting opinions, given that you had a stint in ML and you're actually building these kinds of tools. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, so I've been programming for about 30 years now. So my view might be a little different than yours. And I would actually be interested in your view as well, but I'm not sure if that's the format you want to have on a podcast. Anyways, yeah, I think a lot of old people like me are very set in their ways. That comes with age. So adapting new tools when you spend a full career honing your skills and getting to a point where you're like super streamlined and efficient with the tools you had before, it can be kind of scary to jump into a new thing and basically rework all the things that you did over the past 10, 20, 30 years. So I get where those people are coming from. And the other thing I also get is that LLMs aren't magic. Like they can shit out code real well, but that code is mostly bad. At least if you apply standards that you're used to from before agents. So I think that's where some of the pushback is coming from. But I've also seen, like, I have a lot of other old programmer friends, and I probably was one of the first in that circle that started using those things back in 2023. Not for programming as we do now, but the copy and paste thing, go to ChatGPT web, paste in a function, ask for a thing, get a new function out, stuff like that. So I've been in this game for quite a while, and they haven't. So they also don't know what's available there and how it works and how to apply it. So every time I introduce one of my old programmer friends to these tools, I do it in an ad hoc kind of learning by doing way. We just sit down, we grab one of their repositories, and we see if we can implement a feature, implement a bug. And as soon as they actually get to experience the whole workflow, they kind of warm up to the idea. Not for everything, especially not architecture and more deep thinking work. But for menial tasks, they actually start using it. So I think it's mostly a matter of introducing them to the tools in a way that makes sense for their workflows, for their existing things, showing them how they can slot it in their existing workflows.
I did not code for that long before these things came in. I mean, I had like some professional experience at that point, and I was making a living coding as a contractor or whatever, like a freelancer. I would say. And at least in my personal career experience, it's not total accuracy that is the point. It's like we have an idea, we've saved money up, or we've gotten an investment, and we want to execute on this and then get it in front of people and then get feedback and iterate and then get to a point where we could sell. So like that's kind of like the mindset that my clients interact with me from. And so they actually prefer like just like the AI. Let's call it slop because a lot of it is slop. Like it does this thing where it's kind of like a psychedelic in a way where it shows you like a picture of like something that kind of works, but whenever you zoom in on any specific piece, it just like goes away, like it falls apart, right? Like any specific piece is just like inaccurate in many different ways, but the whole picture somehow works. And I think for people that are like systems isn't the right word, but like they're building like foundational tools. So foundational tools are like FFmpeg or networking software. I feel like those people, they rightfully so don't see the value in it because it's probably going to be able to get a lot of code out and features out, but it's not precise and specific enough for their for the world that they work in. So what was the work that you did mainly? Like what's the theme of the work that you did over your career?
Actually, before I answer that, might I just jump back in and
Yeah,
more like a back and forth? So I
sure.
totally get that. Like for greenfield projects and spitting something out for a client, maybe just an MVP or whatever, it's perfect. I love it and I do that myself all the time. Like I don't have clients in the usual sense because I'm financially independent now, but I do a lot of, how should I put it, public good work. Just building little dashboards, little tools to illustrate political points, to illustrate economical points to a general audience that's not technical, right? And for that kind of stuff, those one-off projects that take like 1 or 2 nights, it's amazing. I love it, and I don't care if it's slop. I also think that this works for startups that haven't gone to market yet. Perfect. Like you accelerate so much by just using these tools and getting something out. Bam, bam, bam. That's awesome. Where it falls apart is when you have a brownfield project that's already existing, then those tools don't work like they do in the cases that you described. At least it needs a lot of work to get them to work that way. And the other thing is, once you have your greenfield project out in the open, eventually it becomes a brownfield project. And my experience with the tools so far, I've built a bunch of projects that are quite sizable, just using agents. And there's a specific point, a specific level of complexity to a project where the agent just stops working because context gathering is too hard for them. They cannot keep even an overview of the system in context to be effective anymore. And then it starts getting bad. Then it starts to just build up slop and slop and slop and depth. And you can't agent your work yourself out of that. Like no agent's going to help you at that point.
I wanted to touch on this. So like I'm making like a visual right now that I'm going to post later, which is the various model types and their strengths and weaknesses. Because Claude is like this surface level machine, right? It can throw out code. It can make anything work. It can like pretty much do any action that you ask it. Like any goal that you give it, it will reach it. Does it reach it in a way that's like long-term scalable? No way. Like Claude has this problem, but it can make things work. So setting up projects, like if I am coming to a new brownfield project, which I work on a few, like, okay, I need to get this set up. I need Docker. I need all this stuff. Claude Code is great with that. Like, hey, just go figure it out. I don't care. With GPT, it's like this drilling machine. So like one of them is like a horizontal, like surface level machine, and the other one is like a vertical, like dig in machine. Now, I personally have not run into a limitation where I feel like I can't use them anymore, but I also have not worked on like the types of like Titan repositories that I would say maybe like a Microsoft acquisition would have, right? Like if they're acquiring something that's probably like already been through the market and experienced many different like phases in its life cycle. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I agree that Claude is like the agentic machine that you can use for general computer use stuff, like fix my ZSHRC file or go spin up that Docker container or SSH into my server and figure out why Caddy is blowing up. Perfect. But yeah, it's very shallow and it's very lazy. It doesn't drill down, as you say, and it doesn't like to gather a lot of context. Like it will not read a full file ever. It will first grab for something that it thinks is in the file and then read 50 lines of that file and think, all I need. And that's where the slop mostly comes from, at least with Claude. So GPT codecs, I have to be honest, I haven't tried 5.2 yet, and I agree that it's amazing at drilling down and finding really complex bugs. But it's so inefficient at computer use that when it comes time to implement things, it doesn't work for my workflow. I need quick iterations, and GPT is just a slow
Well,
pig.
so the thing is, I pay for both, right? Like I use both, and like I have the Max, like Pro and Max, and I have like two Max. And the reasons, like like the way I work, which is like I think it's insane. I don't know if anybody else works like this. Like a lot of people they restart a project after a certain level of complexity. So I'll get it to like a V1. We have a V1 project. Instead of iterating on that, I make a new directory and I say, here's an example of what I want, but I want to do it with like 30% less code example. And then I'll basically have them rebuild the project and then I just like shift the Git around. So they're not iterating on a single project. They're just rebuilding the same thing up until the point where I feel like it's efficient enough or like safe enough or whatever. Which is again pretty crazy, but I go through phases. So Claude get it working, and then GPT get it like implemented, or get me the plans, and then Claude get it working, right, and go between them back and forth. I have like I think. Oh, how was the shift from pre Opus and pre like maybe GPT-5? So you haven't used it much, but how's the shift of pre and post Opus been for you?
I think the biggest step change was between Sonnet 3.7 and Sonnet 4.5. That was noticeable in terms of quality. Between Sonnet 4.5 and Opus, I I don't feel like the step change was that big comparatively. With 4.5, I could actually trust the model to do specific tasks. With 3.7, not so much. With 4.5 Opus, it can probably crack a few harder problems. Like what models are really bad at is concurrency. Any kind of concurrency, they suck at. They also have troubles understanding complex state machines, which kind of makes sense. Especially state machines that aren't located in a single piece of code, but distributed over a more complex system. And I feel like Opus has a bit of a better handle on these. But other than that, I haven't seen that improvement that you would guess was there if you just read Twitter. But it probably also depends on the domain. Like my domains are very specialized. And coming just back to the other point about brownfield projects and so on and so forth, and what you said about FFmpeg. So people that work on things like FFmpeg, they do deep tech. They don't do CRUD applications. CRUD applications are perfect for LLMs. Those are well-trodden paths. Everybody knows how they work. There's plenty of examples on the internet. Building a decoder encoder pair or demuxer like in FFmpeg, that's not in the training set. That's out of distribution. And you will not get help with that from an LLM at the level that makes sense. They can spit out some assembly code for all kinds of CPU architectures, but it will suck really bad. And in my line of work, so the thing I'm earning money with still is called Spine. It's a 2D skeletal animation software. Think of it like Photoshop, but for animations. And that's not deep tech per se. It's not complex code, but it's a lot of it and multi-language, right? So the way it works, you have an editor and you export your animations, and then you have a game engine, be it Unity, Unreal, Cocos, whatever, Monogame. And you load those animations back into the game, and for loading and rendering within a specific engine, you need a runtime that can do all that inside the engine. So we have runtimes for Java, C, C++, C Sharp, Swift, Dart, TypeScript, and I probably forget to Hakes. So a bunch of languages. Like it's a huge polyglot repository, but each runtime is only like 30 to 40,000 lines of code. So not humongous. You can actually read an entire runtime into context, even into Opus context. So early when I tried to integrate agents into this brownfield project, a common task is with a reference implementation in Java. If that changes, that needs to be ported to all the other languages, right? And you would think that that's the perfect thing for an LLM. And to this day, every time a new model comes out, none of them can do it. None. Not even Codex. They just suck. And it's a trivial task. It's the runtimes are super aligned in terms of structure, file names, classes, interfaces, type shapes, and so on. They suck. They can't do it.
So there is this like one of the Andre Karpathy videos where he goes over like what is an LLM, and one thing he showed is that like they write Python scripts that basically take the like original input and then like get you the output in a non, like you're not doing it within the context of the LLM, you're doing it essentially within like a system. So it builds a file and then uses the file to port everything. I don't know if that would work, right? So like this is the kind of mindset that I've had recently with problem solving is like, okay, what is the limit? Which I, again, like it could be very stupid. I could be like really going down like the wrong path
No,
potentially.
actually, like I wrote about this on my blog in June. Prompts are code, JSON, and MD files are state. And this is exactly what I did back then. I basically serialized out state into JSON and MD files and had the model. You can read it up.
I will read it up. I
But
will.
I did this 6 months ago for this specific problem, and I made it work. But it's still not something where I can say, "Hey, dear model, just do my work." It doesn't work.
Yeah. You have to be in the loop constantly for it.
Not necessarily in the loop. There's a lot of things that it could do autonomously, but you have to be in the loop eventually to check on the work
Hmm.
because it's definitely going to be wrong and broken.
How about like from a validation and testing? And so this is something that I adopted like pre and post. Another one of the things that like changed for me is now everything has tests. Most of the tests are crap, but they're also LLM generated most of the time. Or I get somebody to do it for me at this point, like if it's really tough and I set those up and like obviously they can do things where they can like mock data or like Claude loves that. Claude loves that a lot. Claude loves to just take like a thing that you're supposed to be doing and then turn it into a mock and say, yeah, it's done, right? And that's one of the things I really dislike. For me, Opus doesn't not do that as often as Sonnet 4.5 does that a lot, and it like spits out markdown files constantly. And so I preferred the Chinese models. Like when before Opus 4.5, like I canceled my subscription and I was just using the Chinese models because I found them to be less like annoying with that. But how have you implemented this like validation, testing, linting? What's your strategy here?
So most of my projects nowadays are TypeScript node-based. So I just have a pre-commit hook that runs full type checking and linting. I'm just using TSGo, the Go-based TypeScript compiler, which is really fast, and Biome for linting, which is also really fast, and that works. I don't need to remind my model or agent to do this. Every time it commits, it's gonna get screamed at if something is broken, which for me is the perfect place in an agent run for it to check its work. So it can't commit if it doesn't fix all the things. So this works brilliantly. This also works for other languages in Spine. In the Spine runtimes, I also have a bunch of pre-commit hooks that do exactly the same. The other thing is, while the model works, so not at the end of its turn, so to speak, but while it works, it also needs a way to verify its work. And as you said, models can write a lot of tests, but most of them are garbage. And it's not just that the tests they write are garbage. It's also that if there are existing tests and they fail, I've seen Opens do it as well, but Sonnet does it more. You're right. It will just disable asserts. It will just go in and say, I don't think we need that assert. Let's just disable it, and then my tests pass, and I can commit. So yeah, for that I haven't really found a solution yet, other than restricting write access to tests.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like this whole nascent like side of the field of like how do you give it permissions so that you can walk away from it without like letting it like damage itself or also the computer. It's like one is okay, it'll just go and change the test files to make them pass. So you can't really review it once and then decide okay, everything's passing, or it'll mock stuff. Or two is just gonna like I had recently like a month ago I have a like an AI server here that I'm running, and I had a mount, and it went and just like deleted the whole thing. There's like 3 terabytes of data just gone. But like I have redundancy on things and like it's fine. And but that was like a big wake up call for me. And the thing is, I still haven't turned off bypass permissions because it's just too time consuming. Like if I have to just keep going back to it, it's like every 2 minutes I need to go back into the loop when I could set it up and let it run for an hour and then go do other setups and let them run. So the one that I found, like the harness that I found that does this really well is what's it called? Droid. like Droid has a very good permission system, and they have like none, low, medium, and high, and plan. With plan, it's just read only everything. With the rest, I don't know. Like it's not very. I think you can configure it probably, but remove RF not gonna work for them if you have it on medium. But everything else works, right? Or like deleting, or like you can decide what. I haven't done too much of that. Uh, how are you thinking about this specifically? Because you're building one of these things, and this is a big problem.
Yeah, and that is why Pi out of the box is YOLO mode. Because I found that existing permission modes work for some things, but they don't work for other things. Like, as we just talked about, for a specific task, I don't want the model to be able to modify any of the test files. It should only have read access, right? I can't, and otherwise it should have full access to everything. This is just for this one task. I don't want it to have write access to the test files. I can't build that with any harness at the moment. The harnesses are either super fine grained, specify a bunch of patterns to that are allowed or disallowed. That doesn't work. Or lock it fully down or open it up fully. And so in Pi, I just made an extension system where you can plug in your own hook real quick for your specific project, for that specific task, to allow only the things you want to be allowed.
Mhm.
To be allowed. And that works for me. But there's multiple layers to this. Like there's task specific restrictions I want to have, then there's project specific restrictions, and then there's machine level restrictions, right? And I personally think, like, I run all my agent harnesses, irrespective of whether it's Pi or Cloud Code or whatever, in YOLO mode on my machine, just because my machine is basically ephemeral. If something fucks up, it takes me 5 minutes to get everything back, more or less. That works for me, that won't work for other people. The only way to kind of counteract that is virtualize things. Use a Docker container, Podman, what's it called? Yeah, Podman, I think it's called. Use that and just isolate the agent in a container. And that's the only way to keep your machine safe if you really need that. Then there's also the question of credentials, which makes it even harder. I use GitHub CLI a lot, so the agent has access to that. With that, it can extract any kind of token it needs to fuck shit up or exfiltrate it to a third party. In that case, it doesn't matter if you put it in a container or not. If it needs that tool, then it has access to the token. And for that specific problem, I haven't found a solution yet. MCP might be actually one, which I hate to say, but that's one layer of isolation where you can expose a tool to the agent without also exposing credentials to it. But that only works if it's not a bash accessible to it.
Yeah, if it's Bash, yeah. It can do whatever it wants. So there is a harness, root code. I don't know if you've tried it or not. Like, if you try it, like every time I go and try it, like it looks like it's out of date and old, and like I don't know, like just I don't like the fact that it's like a VS Code plugin only. Maybe they have a CLI, I don't know, but root code actually has like a lot of solutions that are way ahead of everybody else that nobody really looks at. They built the browser into the like root code extension thing. The only option for this is like Tray and Cursor, like a full ID. They have it,
Yeah.
but then you have to pay like a lot of money for them. I think I spent like $60 in a day just doing what's it called, Opus for 45 minutes, which is crazy. You know, I could get that same thing, but I wanted the browser. But root code had it in there already. Like they have. I am really into the like idea, and I think the way to go forward is like the orchestration layer of having one that manages like, and like think of all of these extensions we're talking about as like tools that it can manage. Like it doesn't do any of the stuff itself, but it just fires off like a tool version of itself that can go and do the thing. And then you have a bunch of different, like, okay, testing. You want to run tests. You don't need to let the main model know, but you can have like a testing agent, and then that testing agent can't edit the tests, and it spawns only once, and it gives like warnings. Just as an example to the main runner, and you have like the context isolation, but it's complicated. All of it is like very bad user experience, I think. Like everything that we're talking about that's beyond just prompting is a bad user experience.
Exactly. That was my realization as well after months of trying things out. Like sub agents, I understand why people use them. I stopped using them entirely because my use case for a sub agent has mostly boiled down to find me the information I need so I can start laying out a plan. So research, basically. Go through the code base, ingest all the things you can, and filter out what we need for the task at hand. And for that, I don't need a sub agent. I start a new session. I let the agent explore the code base and then just shit out whatever it found into a markdown file. Perfect. I now have state on disk, which I can version, which I can maybe reuse for other tasks. I don't need a sub agent for that. So once I have that markdown file, I start a new session, let the agent read the markdown file, and away we go. That, to me, is a much easier mental model working with these agents than creating 10 different sub-agents, all with their own personality, and putting them in an agents folder, and then having a specific set of tools that they're allowed to use, and blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I don't want to mess with this kind of setup because I'm probably not smart enough for it to keep it all in my head.
I think I see what you're saying. So like here's like just one argument that's based on your personal workflows. When you have like the agent, the main thread that goes and like ingests everything, and now it has like 130,000 lines of context, like or tokens in context, and it wants like you are using it to produce now this readme or like a markdown file, like plan.md, that then is going to be ingested by another model. So when you are killing one and like turning the other on, right? That context, like it's still accessible if you do like session, then you have the cache thing, like the whole cache read and the costs of that. It's not a problem, but what if we could have them just sit on, like they're a service. It's like they're a server that is providing like what is needed to the main thread. Like it's because the way sub agents is done in Claude that I don't like is that it's kind of something that you don't see. Like it just like spawns it and it's like a hidden process. But if having it on as a server is like, okay, like put these API points, produce plan, whatever, right? This is kind of how I'm thinking of it is like, instead of having these deterministic like servers that are running, we have like an AI that can access context and sit and stay alive and then take questions.
I understand where you want to go, but here's the thing. So the problem is twofold. You have an information retrieval problem. That is, even if you have a server, a magical oracle that your main agent can ask for additional information to be plugged into its context, the main agent needs to know how to write the queries for that, and the oracle that gives you that information needs to know how to fetch information based on that query. Humans are really bad at that. LLMs are really bad at that. Like my early work in my career was information retrieval. Nothing has changed. Information retrieval, that is, given a query, get the most relevant parts from some data source, is still an unsolved problem. Knowing that for implementing a specific task with an agent, I need the appropriate specifics, the appropriate information, and it needs to be exact for the agent to be effective. I don't want to rely on a fuzzy information retrieval engine.
Mm-hmm.
Where I, again, like you said, it's not visible, it's not observable, where I have no control over what actually gets into the context. And that's my problem with all those memory systems and all of that stuff that pop up now. This is just magic fairy dust where I don't get to see what actually gets injected into the context. And I don't work like that. I need to know exactly what's in the context and need control over that. So with my workflow where I have one session to gather the context, the benefit is I can then take that markdown file and manually edit it. Or edit it together with an agent until it's perfect. Until it has the exact information in the exact length that I want for the new session, for the new agent to see. That's why I don't use these systems. And the second problem is context transfer. This is basically, I have a main agent and a spawn a sub agent. How do I get the information from the sub agent back into the main agent, right? I have seen a single system yet where this is actually good. And it boils down again to, as you said earlier, observability. If a sub agent returns some information back to my main agent, I need to know what got injected. In Claude Code, I don't think you can see that.
In root code, it's so specific. In root code, they have like, this is the first time I came across this with the like the orchestrator system. It's in root code. It was called boomerang test. So you have like the main agent doesn't write anything. It just writes a specification based on your prompt and then sends it out to an agent to do something. And so when it does that, like the main agent kind of hides, the new agent comes in and then it's doing the stuff, and then it calls a tool called like a respond to main thread, and so that tool has like the markdown. They literally do it in markdown that can be sent back, but you are in the editor with the sub agent. So but this is what this does is like there's no async. So it's just synchronous. So it's just like breaking it down into a workflow that is predictable and that like follows the same steps every time. Which, like, again, it's like, there's a lot of time setting it up into, it's kind of like tweaking your coding environment where you just have, like, you have a hammer and Claude and you just do whatever you need to do. Like, if you like to spend time tweaking your environment, which I love. I love like the min maxing things. Dude, like I loved playing the From Software games like Dark Souls,
Oh yeah.
Elden Ring. So I love those games because they let you just like min max like every single detail in the game, which is so fun for me. So I guess this is part of like the developer experience then.
Yeah, I think so. Like I or Armin Ronacher, we are more on the we like to see all the things side. Other people like Peter Steinberger are on the I don't want to see my code anymore. I don't care. And I think both approaches can work. And with that, different tool sets like orchestrating frameworks or what have you work for you or they don't. I honestly don't feel like anybody has a good handle on what's the best way to achieve things yet. So we're all just throwing shit at the wall and hoping so.
We are, but it's working. All of it is like
Yeah.
that's the surprising thing is like it just works now. This is okay. It's imperfect. It's like it makes huge mistakes, but the fact that it works in general, I think, is something that still hasn't like really hit most people. Like maybe me, I'm like a little like crazy about it, but I think most people they don't really see the connection between like okay, you go onto the Chat GPT app and you send like some messages versus you can take anything in your life, right? And no matter how you want to do it, like visibility, no visibility, you can automate it to a certain level and make it better. I all my finances go through like my local one. I run them through my local. Like here's all my bank statements, all this shit. Like get me how much money did I spend where? What was the worst expense? How do I fix it? And it's very helpful. I wanted to like ask you a few questions about Pi and like why did you create it and what was the like. I've read the README and like I'm using it and I see, but I think for a lot of people they just hear okay, there's Claude Code and Codex. They don't really realize that each one actually has like its own workflow style and like the pros and cons of using it. So yeah, if you could just tell me a bit about Pi and what it is.
Sure. So I preface this with a little bit of history. I was a heavy Cloud Code user and before that a heavy Cursor user. So 2024 was my Cursor year, mostly with tab completions, and then eventually they had Composer or whatever, which was more like almost an agentic thing. And then when Cloud Code came out in April 25, I was using that heavily for months. And I like to reverse engineer things, although calling it reverse engineering, if you look at a Node.js app or a Bun app, it's not really reverse engineering, at least not the way I'm used to. So I started reverse engineering Cloud Code, and it turned out it did a bunch of stupid things, at least stupid in my opinion, which doesn't matter much. Like if you had a bash command, it would actually call out into Haiku and ask, is this bash command dangerous? And irrespective of whether that works or not, it doesn't. It also introduces a lot of latency. So your agent becomes slower. And I hate that. I want quick iteration on my things. And with every new release of Cloud Code, they added more and more and more and more of that kind of stuff, which makes the agent slower. So I set out to build a thing that replaces Cloud Code for me, which is as fast as it can be, minus the slowness of the model. And I also wanted it to be multi-model, because in the middle of the year, I started playing with deploying open weights models, especially the Chinese ones, which I really, really like, to data crunch. So I have an escape hatch. I hate being dependent on the labs to provide me.
I bought 8 GPUs for this reason. Because I can see that this is not going to stay at the price it is right.
No, like even the $200 a month, like
even $2,000.
Yeah, no. So I want to be prepared for the moment where shit hits the fan and the VCs no longer want to sponsor our golden age of agents for cheap. So I experimented with self-hosting a lot, and I think I tried OpenCode, and there was another harness. Oh yeah, Red Crush, yeah. So that were also multi-provider, multi-model, meaning you can plug in whatever thing you want as long as it speaks OpenAI completions or responses or whatever protocol. And I found them to be lacking. OpenCode didn't work with local models at all back then. Specifically, tool calling was broken for everything. I haven't used it since, so I just built this myself and made sure it works with local models or models hosted on GPU clusters like on DataCrunch or what have you. And I wanted something that fits my workflow, which is very minimalist. So I stripped away all the things I don't need, like MCP and sub-agents and blah, blah, but I made it extensible so you can have those things if you want to have them. I don't. I'm happy if you use Pi, and there you go, you can extend it, but don't bother me with that shit. I don't need it, so it's not going to be in core. And that's basically the principle I followed here. Build the thing I like to use, make it work for me, and if others like it too, make it extensible enough so they can make it their own.
My favorite thing about it, like well, I look any one that lets me do multiple models without being like I don't know. You could do it with Claude Code, but it's just insane. Like what you have to do that. Like use a Claude Code router or like have like a copy, and just it's just too complicated. Codex lets you do it as well, but also very complicated.
Gemini CLI too.
Gemini, yeah, I like Pi and I like OpenCode, the new version. So there's like an old OpenCode and a new one. Because I tried the old one, I did not like it. The new one now, specifically, I tried it a few times over the last months. It's very visually pleasing. It shows everything like the context and where it's at in the steps in the sidebar, and then it has like the main thread, and it has a lot of extendable features, which is like you can tweak it. I like the fact that your system has the hold in like immediate mode for the message queue. I found that to be very tasteful because I use Codex when I want to like when before I go leave for my day, I'll write like a 1 hour scope, make 10 tasks, and then have Codex like loop it because you could just send it messages in a queue and it'll do the thing pretty accurately. So I like that. It's a great feature. I also like that it works with Claude. When I tried Claudus, it wasn't Claudus. It was something else. It was like another name. I forgot the name of the repo.
Was it like a Slack bot thing or
But
like more personal assistant kind of thing?
yeah,
That might be
it's
Claude.
the one by Peter. It
Yeah,
is
that's
Claude.
Claude.
It's
Yeah.
called Claudus now, but
Yeah.
it wasn't called Claudus.
Oh yeah, it was called something else. You're right. Yeah.
So when I set that up, Pi was the only option. And so that I installed that, and I've been using it since. It's been pretty good, like maybe 20% of my usage. But where do you want to take it from here? Like, or do you feel like it's kind of like in a stable?
No, actually, I spent the past 5 days refactoring and I'm still not done. Basically, I want it to be a thing that is my main driver and it has been for 2 months. But I also want it to be a thing that allows other people to experiment with agentic coding. So the refactor has a big focus on making really every part of the pipeline extensible or swappable. So you can now build your own compaction if you want. We now have a session tree format. So not linear conversations, but actually a tree where you can branch from and to, including compaction or summarization of branches you're leaving to be injected into a new branch you're moving to, all within the same session file, all with full observability and all that stuff. And I also made it so you can easily create your own UI inside of Pi in the CLI agent, in the CLI, in the TUI version of Pi. And I think if I get this right and not too cumbersome and agent friendly, so an agent immediately knows how to write a new hook to do compaction or a new UI element that maybe like works like Claude Code has this funny feature where the agent gets a tool to ask you questions. I don't think it's very good. It works for very simple things, but most things aren't simple. So Armin actually yesterday built or showed a thing that he built on top of Pi that's kind of like that, just lots more freeform, and it works perfectly well. Yeah, stuff like that. So my goals with Pi going forward are basically keep it minimal so I don't get flooded with stuff that I don't understand anymore. And keep it working for myself mostly. Make it extensible so I myself can easily experiment with new things without breaking the core, and have other people use it and extend it, and maybe build a little ecosystem where people can share their extensions more easily.
I like that. I like that. I'm gonna try to like build something on top of it in the next few weeks. Just like an extension or something. I wanted to like there's like a topic that I want to talk about guitars a bit. I see you have guitars and like that seems to be a big part of your life. But real quick, so we can close this. Like, what do you think about these Chinese models from your experience now? Like, how good are they?
So my first contact was with Quencoder 3, I think. It was the first model that I actually found to be interesting because the 20B version, or was it 32B? I don't remember. That works locally on my Mac actually was useful for agentic computer use things. Not necessarily coding, but computer use things. And I think I personally would love more edge models that I can run on smaller devices just for simple tasks. And I think that's where the Chinese models shine, a lot of them. And recently I found GLM to be amazing, though that's not a Chinese model, if I remember correctly. It's also from the Asian side of the planet, but not Chinese. In any case, I think that's the future. I hope it's the future because I hate nothing more than being dependent on closed source proprietary bullshit for my own coding work. That sucks. And they're getting there. I think next year we might have
Yeah.
models that are probably on par with Opus 4.5 now. And if we get there, I am super fucking happy. I don't need
Yeah.
more in my life.
Yeah, yeah. I fully agree. I mean, there's one American, so like Pneumatron 30 beats based off the Quen, but I tried that, and because I have like my own benchmarks for everything, like how good. So like I took all of my conversations from my computer, like with AI agents and all that stuff, and got it, and then build benchmarks based on like what I think is like relevant for my personal career, and it just tops Nematron 8B. Very small. You run it on a phone, and the 32B one is even better. Like very, very high scores. I don't know how they did it. Probably a lot of like specifically for, coding and stuff, but it was excellent. Let's talk a bit about guitars. Like how long have you been playing? And I see that you have three of them just there. There's probably more.
There's more. One's missing and somewhere else. Yeah, I think I started playing the guitar the same time I started programming at the tender age of 12. Which was great because the guitar was kind of the social thing and the computer was like the sit in a dark room at night and hear your sister snore in the same room because we shared one. We were poor, while you type some QBasic into a blue IDE and modify nibbles.bass or whatever. Yeah, guitars are great. I got a bunch of custom made ones, a 12 string one and a baritone one. And the baritone one is fucking amazing. It's like, I forgot what key it's in, but it's very awesome. Yeah, other than that, it's been part of my life since forever. I also did a lot of singing in my life and playing on stage and stuff. So that was fun, but eventually you get old and it's kind of silly to stand in front of a crowd of 20-year-olds when you're like approaching 40. It just doesn't work for me. So nowadays I mostly play for myself, I record for myself, put up some German language stuff on YouTube maybe, and I'm happy with that. My wild years are gone. So what about you? Are you
I got one right there. Yeah, I play. So I started around a similar age. I was going to music school. I like learned how to read it and learned how to play guitar. But I just kept taking breaks throughout my life. For like, I spent like I think 4 years just moving every 6 months over Europe, like digital nomad life kind of, and it was just like hard to keep up with it. So I know like a bunch of songs, I could play a bunch of songs, but when it comes to like doing anything that's not a copy, I don't really have that skill. Although I could probably develop it. I debate it all the time. I love guitar. I love the Spanish music, the Mexican music, like I forgot what it's called. Like they pluck the
yeah, I
strings.
know what you mean. The ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love like Radiohead and like these like progressive rock, I think is the name, like the music that changes over the song throughout the light. I love that. It's very beautiful to my ears. How have you stayed consistent with it? I mean, you probably have had a very busy life.
So I don't do quantified self. I hate that. Everything that's not computer is feeling. So I don't have goals with guitar playing. I just play. I actually cannot read notes. I learned it by having a lot of friends that were musicians in my circle of friends who showed me stuff, and eventually you develop a feeling for how things fit together without knowing the theory too much. I eventually learned some theory, but honestly, I don't apply it. It doesn't matter. So consistency, I don't know. It was a lot of practice. Like I can be, what's it called? Compulsively obsessed with a thing. So the first 2 years of guitar playing was basically me just bleeding from my fingertips all the time because I played so much. Just learning the songs of the bands I love until I got that nailed down, and also learning how to sing those things. And after that, it was mostly an emotional thing. Like if I felt like writing a song, I wrote a song. And if I didn't feel like writing a song for a year, I didn't touch the guitar, and it was fine too. I don't have goals with that. I don't. I just want it to be a nice thing I can do when I feel like it.
My interests shift a lot, and I think there's just so much in this world that I want to do, and I don't have much time to do it realistically. This is like my biggest, like, this is kind of why I want to go all in on this technology, is if I could figure out how to cultivate a working system that could earn me a living outside of like actually selling a company and having stock. Like I try to do that. I'm still young, but I just like look financially. I don't think we're in a good place. I don't think it's going to get better. I don't think it's also going to pop, right? Like it's not going to explode and that we have to rebuild in my lifetime. I don't think it's going to Could be wrong.
Let me put it that way. Most of the experiences I made in my life was when I was dirt poor and had a regular
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
My key to success was just never working more than 30 hours a week. And all of a sudden you have a lot of time for things that actually interest you. And with that, I could do all of these things. And that has worked for me. And since I am financially independent, I obviously saw a lot of nice things. But I wouldn't say I made more or better experiences just because of that. So financial independence does not necessarily mean you get to experience more of life. It's what you make of it, which sounds fucking terrible and pathetic, but
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is like
So
that.
it's I hmm hmm like as a percentage of the world, I'm in like a very high percent. But when it like, because okay, so when you're a high percent like earner and you are living in a city, you're around other high percent earners, and so like you guys are all driving up the price of like stupid stuff to like if I were living in a place that was like quiet, countryside, I would definitely feel like I have more time, but now I have to compete because I'm in a place that requires that to like live. And things are just getting expensive. It's hard to like buy hard assets and maintain them. It's
Yeah.
like everything's like a 30-year contract. You can't even go with cash really unless you have a lot and say, I want to buy a house. You have to do this whole song and dance. I could start ranting about this forever, like angry at the government.
No, I get you.
Uh,
I totally get you. So while we are filthy rich, we have a son, and I don't want him to think we are rich. So we settled down in a normal neighborhood, not cheap, not expensive, and this works for us. We are not missing anything. We could buy a McMansion somewhere up on a hill, but that wouldn't make us happy. And I totally get what you're saying about gentrification, basically. Yeah, just move, man. It's not where you live. It's.
I think you might be. I mean, I like interesting people. That's like one of my favorite things. Is like I want to find people that I think are like, and that gets harder and harder as you find more interesting people. Because like, okay, you already know all of them, so how do you get better ones? And then you start thinking, I think Warsaw's too small for me. I don't mean this in like an egotistical way. It's like
Oh yeah.
realistically, I've been to every meetup, every event. I know everybody. I know all the companies. So it's like I've outgrown it, and I can't go to the countryside and also have that without really shattering my life. I'm not arguing with you. I'm just like
No, no, no,
saying
no,
how
no,
I'm
no.
thinking about it.
Like I totally get that, and if I was your age, I would do. I actually did that basically when I was your age. So you do you, man. Just you have a very Pokemon kind of mindset. You want to catch them all, like
I
in all
do.
ways of life, like guitar playing, computering, meeting people, meetups, living
Yeah.
in whatever. I think that's awesome, and just keep doing that until you get bored of it and want to settle down.
You have a son?
Yeah,
So I also have the one son. I almost have a daughter on the way as well. So that's like another thing that takes up so much time.
yeah.
But it's the best thing. It's the like I will ask you about how you balance it, like just to comment, like I think there's nothing in my life that I've ever experienced that's like whenever I'm spending time with him. There's like something so mentally like okay, it gets boring, right? Like you get bored of everything. So, but there is something like emotional about it that is just unnatural or like too natural. I don't know. Natural, unnatural. It doesn't. You don't have that experience elsewhere in
Yeah,
life.
something biochemically overrides your desire to do something that actually interests you, while the little one is just picking his nose or doing something really stupid. I totally get that. But I have to be honest with you, when he was early, when he was really young, I did get bored as fuck ton. Like I hated some of it, really just sticking around and nothing happens. But as he gets older, it becomes more interesting. Like now we can go ice skating, now we can go bouldering, now we can go whatever the fuck we want. Like there's a wood right over there. We just step out 10 meters and we have the biggest adventure ground you can imagine. And yeah, it's awesome. I love it. In terms of balancing it with everything else, the key to success is once he's asleep, don't waste your time watching TV, but just do some interesting things. At least that's what works for me, which is easier said than done.
I think that yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. When he was 6 months old, I didn't feel anything towards him, and it was just weird because like I'd never get anything back. So it's like, but I saw that my wife would get something back from like just the relationship type is different. But now that he's like over 2 years old,
Oh yeah.
it's just so fun. He's so fun. Like even if he's doing silly things, it's like it's ridiculous. They do it in a ridiculous way. Their personalities are very captivating. Anything else about your life that you feel, yeah, that you'd like to share? Like, and you've had a very long complicated, many stages in your life. What's
Uh,
been the like constant thing around all of it?
Not taking anything seriously. That's the only thing that keeps you sane, really. If you take something too serious, it can destroy you. And I've been down that road, and it sucks. Do it. It's just a game. You have one life, and you see my T-shirt. That's basically like, yeah, just don't take anything seriously. It all doesn't matter in the end. You're gonna become Stardust again. So just, I don't know. I just see people making goals and trying to reach them and breaking while trying to reach those goals, and I think that's stupid. Like, yeah, I don't have any good philosophies to share, really. I think we should stop here before it gets really
No
fucking boring.
worries, no worries. No, I mean, very fascinating, like especially the tech stuff. I'm gonna have all of it as links in the description. Yeah, I've been for like one of you and Stipe. I just know his Twitter
Peter
username.
Steinberger, yeah.
Yeah, he is like the very fascinating builders. Like it's like a new age of builders that I see. Very unique work and like doing it in the public in the open. It's very cool. So thank you for that. It's a lot to learn from.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and don't take your elders too seriously either. We know
I
it's
don't. I don't. We're all silly.
good.
All right. Hopefully we'll talk again.
Sure.